Welcome to Women's Sports Weekly, where women's sports happens every day, but we talk about it once a week. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Carolyn. Women's Sports Weekly is a podcast where we discuss the latest news, explore interesting stories, and share our love for women's sports. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Women's Sports Weekly Pod. Follow us and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Merry Christmas Eve. We are in our Christmas pajamas.
Fun fact, my grandma gives all the grandchildren Christmas pajamas every year. Thanksgiving night. I think when we got engaged, you started getting pajamas as well. I personally have been wearing mine probably every night for the past month.
You have not taken off your Christmas pajamas.
I'm happy to see you in yours.
They are very comfortable. Merry Christmas Eve. If you are celebrating, we are releasing on Christmas Eve this week. We are also providing a holiday giveaway. You still have time to enter. The holiday giveaway ends on January 7th. To enter is very simple. Head over to our Instagram and give us a follow at Women's Sports Weekly Pod. Go to our giveaway post, which is pinned. Tag 2 friends in the post who should listen to the pod, and then repost the second slide to your own Instagram story. Send us a screenshot of the posted story, and you are entered to win an Everyone Watches Women's Sports t-shirt.
Woo!
We will pick a winner January 7th, and we will announce it on our socials.
So please, if you have not entered, do so.
The best way to share about the podcast is through word of mouth.
Yes.
That's what people trust the most. So please tell people who you think would like our podcast that they should listen.
Yes, please do.
We are definitely in the Christmas spirit. This past weekend, we went and got some Christmas cocktails, and we went to one of my favorite places because I love a tiki bar. And there's a great tiki bar in Denver where they deck out the entire bar for Christmas.
I thought I was going to make Christmas pop-up bars my personality in December. It did not happen, but this past Friday we did finally go to one, and I was very happy. And I just love the cups they put the Christmas drinks in.
One was a Santa in a hula skirt.
Yes.
And one was a little snowman, and they both had little hats on.
But it was a Sandman, which was cute. It was like very beach themed.
I love a tropical drink. My perfect day is somewhere on a beach with a painkiller in my hand. It's the most delicious thing I've ever tasted.
Whenever we go and have a little date night, we just have the best conversations. Friday was one of those nights, so I just love that as well.
And I always cry. Without fail, when Danielle and I go out on a date night, I cry. And sometimes it's happy tears and sometimes it's sad tears. And Danielle does a great job of holding space for me. I always think that people in the bar must think we're breaking up every time.
Sometimes we see the bartender or waiter come up to us and kind of look, and then they look away. And I'm like, yeah, they definitely think something sad is happening. But this is just the way we communicate. Carolyn cries and it's okay.
I'm just a crier and I'm trying to get used to it.
Yeah, just embrace it. It is not a bad thing.
We also had our first ski day this past weekend, which was really fun. So we got some snow, which also felt very festive. We went into the mountains. It has not been cold in Denver.
No.
So we went into the mountains. It wasn't even cold in the mountains. Got our first ski day in. We are getting a little spoiled about skiing because we only like to go when the conditions are great. So we probably won't go again until there's a little bit more snow in the mountains, but it was good to get my sea legs back.
Same. I feel like the first day skiing is always a little nerve-wracking because you have to get used to other people on the mountain. It is like riding a bike, but when you haven't done it for how many months, it's like, okay, making sure everything's working again.
Yes.
It was a fun day, and just a reminder that skiing is a fun activity that we didn't necessarily have in New Jersey, and it's nice to have a winter activity to look forward to, especially as things, like we already said, Denver's been pretty warm, but it's going to get cold at some point, and it will be nice to have that escape.
To have a winter activity has done wonders for my mental health. So might not be the exact right time now, but I know I will be depending on skiing quite a bit as we progress into this winter. Let's get into the highlight reel for the week.
Once again, this week has served wonderful games in multiple sports. I will start off with USC versus UConn women's basketball.
It was so good. Such
a good game. I wish I was there in person. This game was at UConn. It was a sold out crowd with over 16,000 spectators. The atmosphere just looked electric. And even the announcers, several points of the game, talked about how the stadium was shaking, like vibrating.
Wow.
Because people were just going nuts. USC ended up beating UConn 72-70. UConn had a hell of a comeback to even make it a game in the second half.
Yeah. USC was dominant the first half. I was like, whoa, this is going to be a blowout. But UConn is UConn, and they fought back and made it very interesting.
This is actually the first time USC has ever beaten UConn in women's basketball. First time ever. And last time the two teams met was the Elite Eight 8 months ago. UConn beat USC 80-73.
A lot can happen in 8 months. Juju Watkins isn't a freshman anymore. She is a full-grown sophomore.
Not only that, but both teams look pretty different this year, especially USC. They're a different team. They've picked up key transfers in the portal this past year, two being Kiki Iriafen and Talia von Oelhoffen. And they have multiple freshmen who play big minutes. They have Avery Howell, Kennedy Smith, and Kaylee Heckel, who all were hitting key shots, playing big minutes. Honestly, I forget a lot of the time that freshmen are out on the court because these players are so good that it's hard to believe they're even freshmen.
Yep.
And UConn looks different this year. They lost Nika Mule and Aaliyah Edwards last year, who graduated and went to the WNBA. So obviously two big parts of the team last year. But they also gained some great freshman talent. They arguably have the best freshman in NCAA in Sarah Strong, who played a hell of a game.
Her hands are so good.
And she just makes the smoothest moves. And again, I look at her and she's a post player and she's tall and she's strong. Sarah Strong, get it? And sorry, I couldn't resist. Dad jokes are dadding. She just doesn't look like a freshman. She seems very composed. So let's get into the game a little more. One thing to note is Juju Watkins picked up 2 fouls in the first quarter.
I did not love the officiating in the game.
Well, do we ever?
No. I was like, that's not a foul. On both sides, I was just like, these fouls are so dumb.
Yeah. I was happy with the coaching. Kept Juju in. A lot of the times coaches get 2 fouls and then sit someone for the whole first half. I just thought that was a good call on the USC coach Gottlieb. Juju Watkins played a great first half. USC was up 24-15 after the first quarter.
Yep.
AZ Fudd for UConn has been out the past couple of games because unfortunately she suffered another injury. I feel so bad for AZ Fudd. Her whole career has been a struggle with injuries. Even when she came into the game, you could just tell she's not totally herself.
She was hesitant, for sure.
She was going up for the basket and getting hit and coming up short. I just hate to see that in players because she's such a good player and I know her potential, and it just sucks to see that she's been struggling with that.
And I think when you play timid like that, you have a higher chance of getting hurt.
I know. But it was good to see her get some minutes in the game. Hopefully she continues to progress throughout the season. Another thing to note, Juju Watkins, the kid is unbelievable. She created space to hit threes with Paige Beckers in her face or other defenders in her face. She was able to split defenders down low and hit ridiculous shots. I don't even think she's forcing it because she makes them. The control she has over her body and the ball, it's really just very cool to see.
Yeah, the body control I think is what stuns me the most because I'm like, that is not something that is necessarily taught. It's just something that someone inherently has. Or is it taught? I don't know.
I think it's you just have it or you don't, honestly. You can't really teach that. When I look at her and Paige compared side by side and they were guarding each other a lot of the game, they're both just such smooth players. Juju, what I think she has on Paige is she's a little bigger, muscular is what I mean by saying that. And Paige is a very slim frame. They're both extremely athletic, have extremely good handles. They can shoot lights out. It was a really fun matchup to see. So at halftime, USC was up 42-29. USC shot 49% from the field in the first half and were 7 for 11 from the three. It just goes to show how well they were playing. As a reminder, this was at UConn. That is not an easy thing to do. UConn shot 35% in the first half. To start the second half, USC continued to stay hot and ended up going for an 18-point lead. I was like, they're just going to win by 40. The way they started the second half, I was like, UConn is screwed. Things started to take a turn in the third quarter. I would say more in the middle of the third. It almost felt like UConn started to wake up a bit and we're not going to lose by 20 to USC.
Yep.
With about 3 minutes to go in the third quarter, sophomore Ashlyn Shade from UConn, who, by the way, shoots 44% from three. Which
she's been playing really well.
Hit a huge three to cut the lead to 9 points. Everyone in the stadium at this point was going nuts, and a timeout was called. After the timeout, KK Arnold made a big steal, kicked it out to Paige, who hits another 3 to cut it to 6. We were watching this game at where else but the 99ers Sports Bar here in Denver, which we've talked about many times now. But there were a lot of UConn fans in the bar who were very quiet for most of the game. And at this point, people started to chirp and get really loud.
I was like, oh, whoa, there's UConn fans here? You guys have been real quiet.
It was like, oh, UConn fans are here and they're starting to get rowdy. It was funny that the bar started getting louder. I haven't heard anyone say peep this whole game. I'm mostly kidding. At that point, it was a 6-point game and UConn had just gone on a 10-0 run. KK Arnold, I will say, played great defense. She's a sophomore on UConn. She was wreaking havoc in the third quarter. She came up with big plays. She was getting hyped up, which I don't feel like I always see that out of her. I feel like she's a little timid sometimes out there. And I think Gino has a tight leash on her. Like, I feel like she's one of his players that if she makes a mistake, she's coming out.
That's how I feel about Ashlyn Shade, too. Gino pulls her very quickly. It seems like this year she has a little bit.
Yeah, not this game at least. Yeah,
a little bit looser of a leash. But yeah, he's got some players that you just know if they make a mistake, they're coming out, which has to be very hard as a player because
for sure
everyone's on a different leash. And to talk about leashes,
I know
it's not the best metaphor, but I could imagine that he's probably a difficult coach to play for sometimes if you're getting taken out when you make one mistake.
If you're not Paige Beckers.
Yes.
But yeah, it was great to see KK Arnold get fired up. I really thought she played great minutes. Now let's get into the fourth quarter. UConn cut the score to 3 points with about 6 minutes left off of a 3 from freshman Morgan Shelley. And then after a defensive stop on the next play, Paige comes down and hits a mid-range 2 to cut it to 1 point. Fast forward to a little over 2 minutes left in the game. UConn ties the game at 67 off of another basket from Paige Beckers. Tie game with about 2 minutes left. If I'm a player in that situation and I'm on USC, it's almost like full-on panic mode because it's like, how did we blow an 18-point lead? They almost did blow it because with 5 seconds to go, Sarah Strong is about to take a 3-pointer and Juju Watkins fouls her.
At this point, the score is 72-69.
Yes.
USC is up.
So UConn was going to tie the game. Sarah Strong was throwing up a 3 to try to tie the game with 5 seconds left. Gets fouled. Huge, I want to say mistake. It looked like Juju was trying to close out or get her hand on the ball, but it ended up being a foul. We were sitting at the bar and like, there's no way this freshman hits 3 shots.
We just knew immediately. We were like, it just is not happening. We were with our friends Lex and Sarah, and I think Sarah said she's missing the second one.
Sarah was like, she'll make the first, miss the second. I think she said make the third, but Sarah Strong ended up making the first and then missing the next two, which sucks. But like we all said, she is a freshman in that situation. To hit 3 foul shots would have been insane.
And Paige Becker said after the game did not come down to those 3 foul shots.
Absolutely not.
UConn struggled. Honestly, both teams have a lot of work to do after this game to look back on areas to improve. But poor Sarah Strong. As a freshman, it's a hard position to be in.
I know. I was talking to my dad about the game because he's a huge UConn fan, and as he put it, UConn lost that game in the first half, which can't argue that. They definitely did, and Paige is right. It did not come down to that. So USC stayed on top, winning the game. Juju Watkins led all scorers with 25 points and also added 5 assists and 3 blocks.
The blocks were what was impressive to me.
Yeah. She's blocking Paige Beckers at the 3 and then going down and hitting an insane shot on the other end. Very impressive. For sure. Kiki Iriafin added 16 points and 6 assists for USC. And then for UConn, Paige Beckers and Sarah Strong both had 22 points.
I think UConn doesn't look as good as I thought they were.
Yeah. I watched the game again. I had to watch the replay because I was like distracted at the bar and I was like, I need to sit down at home and just watch this game again to see, because when you're seeing bits and pieces and you're only seeing scores, it's hard to fully paint the picture. I agree. And I thought UConn did look better than I thought after watching last night, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I think they're young. Paige Beckers cannot do it all. It's her and sophomores and freshmen, really, because Ice Brady started the game and then was nowhere to be found for a long portion of the game. So she's working with young players. And I think Gino is still trying to figure out the pieces of the puzzle for the team.
And it's still early, right?
Yeah.
We're just now heading into conference play. So everything up until this point has really just been trying to work out what is it going to look like? What kind of team are we? So yes, it's still early, but I was like, whoa. After last year, we said UConn definitely in the Final Four. And after watching them this past weekend, I am a little bit nervous about that prediction.
I absolutely agree. And what I think is crazy is UConn was ranked 4 and USC was ranked 7. UConn has done a lot over the years to get them to a point where they're going to be ranked high. I just don't think they're number 4. So we'll see. They're not going to stay at number 4, especially after losing to USC. So it'll be interesting to see where they end up on the rankings. Basketball season has been great.
It's also just so amazing to me that when we put these games on TV in primetime spots, the amount of people that watch. And when I say it's amazing to me, it's so predictable. And I don't know why people didn't figure this out earlier.
Sooner. Yep, I know.
Let's get into volleyball. I'm on one today. And when we get into our next segment, it's just going to be spicier.
I think you're hangry.
Yeah, I definitely am.
At the time of recording, Carolyn has not eaten dinner yet, and you're hangry.
Yes. And everyone in my family knows that a hangry me is a scary me.
Yeah, I know. For our listeners out there, usually you go silent,
which is scary because I'm a chatter.
And I'm like, excuse me, did something happen? And you're like, no, I'm just hungry. And I'm like, well, what did you eat today? And, you know,
I had snacks.
Yeah.
It was not a great
meals.
day.
No.
I need to eat a meal. And I tell Danielle, I get really quiet and I'm like, I don't want to scream at you. So I just need to close my mouth because.
As if you would ever scream at me. Anyways.
All right, let's get into volleyball. Louisville versus Penn State in NCAA volleyball finals. How did we get here? Louisville beat Pitt.
Oh.
I know.
Poor Pitt.
Still the junior bridesmaid. So sorry. Louisville beat them 3-1 to get to the championship. Penn State was down 2-0 to Nebraska and did what they're calling a reverse sweep, which I didn't even know this was a thing, and won 3 sets in a row to get to the championship.
I just think the Penn State story this season is one worth looking into, with their coach being diagnosed with breast cancer and then getting to this point, having the best season in 7 or 8 years, to be able to do a reverse sweep on Nebraska, who's been on top, like so good the past couple years, is pretty incredible.
Both Louisville and Penn State have female head coaches, and it was announced that this was going to be the first time in Division I NCAA women's volleyball history that a woman was going to lead her team to a championship. That was a stat that I was like, oh man, we've got such a long way to go. If this is, it's 2024, it's about to be 2025, and we're having our first woman head coach win. I'm very happy about it. Let's get into this match.
So we've talked about records and attendance with all these games. Not only was this the first time a women coach ever led a team to an NCAA national championship for volleyball, this national championship also set a new attendance record of 21,860 spectators in attendance, according to NCAA. So that was another very, very cool thing to witness. These final 4 games were played at Louisville. I have an issue with that.
Yeah, it wasn't the best.
I just don't understand how volleyball decides we're going to host this at a school that could potentially be in the Final Four, which they were and ended up being in the national championship. We talk all the time about how home court advantage is real. How many red shirts were in the stands watching this game?
I know. I think they need to play at a neutral site, but Penn State ends up winning this, so they fought through it.
But I just couldn't imagine going to an NCAA basketball Final Four at a campus, like at South Carolina or at UConn. That would be not right. So with that, Penn State did win. They won the first set, third set, and fourth set. They won these sets 25-23, 25-20, and 25-17. I thought they were going to win in 3 sets. At the point I said that, they were winning the second set 24-19. What happens? Louisville starts chipping away. For those who may not know volleyball, 25, once you get 25, you got to win by 2. The set is over. So they were up 24-19, and Louisville just starts coming back. They tie it 24-24. Then both teams continue to go back and forth. You and I were like, this set is never going to end.
I didn't think it was
And I didn't
ending.
want it to end because it was so exciting, the back and forth. Louisville came out on top in that set 34-32. It was hard to see Anna DeBeer sitting on the sideline. She suffered an ankle injury in the semifinals. She was obviously hyping up her team. She's a grad student on Louisville. Senior Charity Looper and libero Elena Scott on Louisville made pivotal plays, especially during the second set. You and I were saying, like, Charity Looper, watching her play is so much fun.
I really enjoyed watching her on Louisville. And do you say libero or libero? We were hearing libero. So someone who plays volleyball or understands volleyball needs to tell us why some people say libero and some people say libero.
I was friends with volleyball players throughout high school. I've only ever heard it being called libero, so I also have no idea where that came from.
I'm so big on pronunciation. You know this. When we talk about people on the podcast, I really strive to get names right. And so when I heard libero, I was like, have we just been saying it wrong this entire time? Someone tell us.
I don't think so. Another thing we noticed, and we've been watching volleyball throughout the season, but it just seemed like people were hitting the ball extra hard. I thought some people were going to have their heads hit off their bodies.
The Louisville libero was so good. She was just fielding things, but she was getting slammed.
Yeah, and somehow keeping it in play. Like,
yes,
using her body to keep the ball in play, but those balls were coming so hard.
Yeah, they were.
I mean, Penn State and Louisville hits the ball so hard. The women on the team jump so high and slam the ball.
And you said you think most of those big hitters you think can dunk the ball.
When I see them leave the ground, first of all, a lot of times they're coming from
the back
further
line.
back on the line. It looks like Air Jordan out there.
Yeah.
And the way their feet just kick out and the way they approach, like their whole back arches, they can definitely touch rim.
Yeah.
And maybe some of them can even dunk.
I'm sure they would be afraid because the rim is so hard. But yes, I'm sure they can.
I want to see it.
But it is a thing of beauty, the way that these women can get so high up in the air and put so much force. And when they show it in slow motion, this is how, one, I know that I love women's sports, and two, that I know that I'm gay. But I'm just like, my jaw is on the ground. I'm like, wow, I've never seen something so beautiful.
It is. It is a beautiful thing. I constantly wonder why I wasn't given those skills, but here we are.
In our Christmas t-shirts.
Moving on.
As you had mentioned, the Penn State head coach, Katie Schumacher-Cawley, was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer in October. She has continued to coach throughout the season. She is now a national champion, first female coach in NCAA Division I to win a volleyball championship, which is very cool. She is coaching with a wrap around her head because she doesn't have any hair. I love that. One, women can look to that, and people with cancer can look to that. You can still continue to achieve your dreams and go for your dreams. And it's just like a great story about resilience. The media obviously ate that shit up too. Mm-hmm. I just hope, I know that when people go through cancer treatment, it can make you so incredibly tired. So for me, I just look at her and I hope she gets some good rest.
For sure. Because I was hearing announcers say she hasn't missed a practice this whole year, hasn't missed a game. I don't know how that's even possible. This is the best season Penn State has had in 7 seasons. They ended with a record of 35-2. And she used to be a player at Penn State for volleyball and basketball.
Oh, I didn't know she was a basketball player too, but she won a national championship in volleyball.
Yes, as a sophomore. I feel like it was a full circle moment. Wishing her the best of luck in her recovery. This was Penn State's 8th national championship in program history, but the first in over a decade. They used to be really good back in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's been a minute since they've won one, but with 8 national championships, that's the second most national championships in NCAA volleyball history.
Wow.
A little bit about stats. Grad student Jess Merzick from Penn State led all players with 29 kills, and she also contributed 14 digs. Grad student Cameron Hanna contributed 19 kills, and junior Jillian Grimes added 16 digs.
She spells Jillian with a G, so it looks like Gillian Grimes. Senior Charity Looper led Louisville with 21 kills and 6 digs, and senior Sophia Maldonado Diaz added 20 kills and 6 digs. But Penn State gets the win. They are NCAA volleyball national champions.
And it was a great national championship.
Yeah, it was a great tournament all around. And I know having 4 number 1 seeds is not the best in the Final Four, but all the games leading up to it were really, really exciting.
So that's it for volleyball this season. And that is also it for the highlight reel. So we are going to do a fun little deep dive today. As Carolyn said, it's the holiday season, so we are revolving it around the holidays.
Santa is literally coming to your house tonight if you celebrate. So we wanted to talk about who is on Santa's nice and naughty list. Who is getting presents this year for Christmas and who is getting coal. I know some people who are getting coal. Do you want to know who they are?
Is it me?
No, you are not getting coal. There have been some people. Guys, I am petty, so I see everything. There are people who
are you Santa?
Yeah.
No.
I am.
Wait, no. You're the Grinch.
That's right.
So that's why you're being so petty.
Exactly. That's why I'm giving out coal right now. But anyone who joined our giveaway and posted on their story for 3 minutes just to take a screenshot and send it to us,
Wow.
I see it. Santa sees it, and you're getting coal.
Wow, you're going hard.
I'm going hard at our listeners.
I was not expecting that. You're going to take this out, right?
No, I'm not. I'm not taking it out. You are getting coal. Just know that Santa's watching. We want people to listen to our podcast. I'm just throwing it out there. Santa's watching.
I'm getting uncomfortable.
All right, let's talk about who's getting presents.
I'm going to be Santa.
And I'm going to be the Grinch. So Danielle will be talking about who this year is getting presents, and I will be talking about who this year is getting coal. I should be dressed in green right now.
I was going to say, it's unfortunate I'm wearing green right now and you're in red. We should be reversed. I didn't even think of that till now. Anyways, I'll start with presents. Denver. Yes, Denver is getting presents. What have we talked about all year? We constantly complain that Denver does not have a professional women's team, especially in the past week. There's been a lot of conversation, and the NWSL is reportedly engaging in exclusive negotiations with Denver for the league's 16th expansion team. It would launch in 2025 with a price tag between $105 and $120 million. So this would be an extremely expensive gift to Denver, one that we deserve.
Yes.
And I cannot be more excited about this.
I don't know anyone more than me who deserves an $120 million gift.
The Grinch. The Grinch is claiming this as their gift.
No, I don't want to get too excited because a lot of things can happen in contract negotiations, but to hear that they're having these talks and that it's been Denver, I'm going to be first in line for season tickets.
Yes, that is a good distinction. Do not run away and say, oh my God, Denver has a team. Negotiations are happening, but it's looking good. Knock on wood.
Let's talk about who's getting coal.
Oh boy.
The LPGA is getting coal for Christmas. They have recently revised their more inclusive rules and made a new policy saying in order to compete in LPGA events, transgender women must be able to prove that they have not experienced any part of male puberty beyond the Tanner stage of 2. The Tanner stages is stages of puberty. It's identified as the stage when physical development changes happen. They can also not participate if they've reached the age of 12 and have not taken anything to stop puberty from happening. So it's whichever comes first. The LPGA says that this is based on science and experts, but they will not say which science they've used or which experts they've consulted. And they reversed a 2010 policy where the LPGA voted to eliminate its requirements that players have to be female at birth. This comes at a time when treatment for trans kids receiving gender affirming care is being taken away in so many states across the country. This is not a viable answer. This is totally exclusionary. We hope to talk more about trans inclusion in women's sports, but pretending that trans people don't exist, creating rules that are so exclusionary based on the state that you live in is not going to be the answer. We cannot pretend that trans people are not people, although the media really does try to do that. They are people who want to play sports, who deserve to play in sports, and we need to find ways to include them. Because if you think that trans rights don't affect you as a woman, you are wrong. LPGA is getting coal.
Yes, that's a good one.
Who's getting presents?
So Caitlin Clark is getting presents. We did not talk about this yet. She received Time Athlete of the Year for 2024. She was styled well, looked great, but not why she's getting presents.
And she is the Athlete of the Year. Not the
Yes.
Women's Athlete of the Year, the Athlete of the Year. And she did look great.
And this is a huge deal for women's sports. And yes, she 1000% deserved this. But also, in this article for Time Athlete of the Year, she's been quoted acknowledging her privilege in receiving this accolade.
Which I'm so happy about because she hasn't said much. She said a little bit, but she said, you know, I work so incredibly hard and there is a level of privilege that has gotten me to where I am.
Yes.
So some people are going to be angry that she admitted that she has white privilege.
There are trolls who've already made comments.
To me, this is a natural progression of what happens when you go and you surround yourself with people who don't look like you, and you look around and you're like, wow, they work incredibly hard too, and they don't have one brand deal. That's interesting. And so to people who say that she's appealing to the woke media, I simply do not agree. I think that she's 22 years old. She's really young and she's learning. And I am happy that she's finally said something and on such a big platform. So presents for her.
For sure.
I also want to say that she went right from college into the WNBA. She had a little bit of a rocky start, and then she ends up with Rookie of the Year. She had such an incredible bounce back and handled it all in great stride. I cannot wait to see her progress in the W and to see what she does with her role and her platform.
With that, who else is getting coal?
All right. The management behind the San Diego Wave, the Las Vegas Aces, and the Seattle Storm are all getting coal for Christmas.
Yeah, it's been a rough go for these teams.
It really has. So San Diego Wave have allegations of a poor working environment, and then their president, Jill Ellis, leaves for a position as chief of football with FIFA. So very interesting. Again, these are allegations. We don't actually know what was going on, but to have your president leave and get a promotion, everything just looks a little bit fishy and funky. The Las Vegas Aces faced allegations of discrimination from player De'Erica Hamby for being pregnant. Again, allegations, but something smells a little bit fishy. And the Seattle Storm have allegations of player mistreatment due to player performance. Of course, every team has denied across the board that anything went wrong at their team in that environment. But what the heck is going on? We don't know. And because we don't know, you're all getting coal.
We know enough to give you coal.
Who's getting presents?
Barbara Banda from the NWSL is getting presents. She won an NWSL championship in her first season in the league. She scored 13 goals and 6 assists during the regular season. She scored in every round of playoffs, and she's the championship MVP in the NWSL. She was voted BBC Women's Footballer of the Year and scored a hat trick at the Olympic Games in Paris on the Zambian national team. So she had one hell of a year playing soccer.
And I love to watch her, which is why, you know who's getting coal? J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling's getting coal for repeatedly putting women at risk by calling them men.
She is the worst. And it's really upsetting because she wrote Harry Potter.
Tell us about what you struggle with as a gay woman.
I struggle with a lot. One being, I've always loved Harry Potter. I've read all the books, love them. I would one day like to read them again. And all this crap has come out about J.K. Rowling and how she treats women and trans women and creates this mess on social media. Yep. So I struggle with the idea of she wrote these books and I like them. And what do I do with that? Yeah. That's one.
What else do you struggle with?
I personally like Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is not nice to the gays. Bad, bad, bad. So I try not to eat Chick-fil-A. And every once in a while I do break and I eat it and I feel like a horrible person.
Is this your confessional?
Yes, my 2024 confessional. I don't know if I've had Chick-fil-A this year.
I don't think we have.
I do a really good job of trying to avoid it, even though it's calling my name sometimes. 3, shopping at Home Depot.
Ooh, we're guilty.
Also give money to bad people and bad organizations, and yet we give money to them. So again, sometimes I just feel like a horrible person because I'm stuck in the middle, and sometimes I just need to make a decision on what's right for me, and not always a good idea.
Well, I'm glad you got that off your chest.
Me too.
All right, let's talk more about why J.K. Rowling sucks. So when Barbara Banda won the BBC award, J.K. Rowling said that the BBC, in quotes, decided this was more time efficient than going door to door to spit directly in women's faces. Barbara Banda is a cis woman.
Yep.
I don't know what the heck J.K. Rowling is doing. If she was a trans woman, it wouldn't be any better. But what are you doing? The BBC award was a poll that was voted on by fans, not even by the BBC. So I don't even know what you're saying. You don't even know what you're talking about. You did this in the Olympics with Amana Khalif. What are you doing? Go to therapy. As someone who goes to therapy, please go to therapy and get whatever issue you have figured out. And if you are so concerned about women, why do you repeatedly put them at risk for harm? Coal, 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 Cole.
I call you the Grinch, but I agree with all of these.
I'm coming tonight. I'm getting on my sled and I'm throwing Cole through windows.
No, you're getting on your broom.
My broom. I'm taking Max the dog. Scout is laying down over there.
Scout is soundly asleep right now. Looking so cute.
She is resting up because we have a big night tonight giving out Cole. Who is getting presents?
Last but not least, I have a few here. They're all getting presents. Kelly O'Hara, Alex Morgan, Alyssa Nair, Sam Ewis, and most recently, Becky Sauerbraun are all getting presents. All of these members of the U.S. women's national team have announced retirement in some way this year. Alyssa Nair will continue to play for the NWSL, but has ended her international career. All these players are going to be greatly missed, so we're giving them send-off presents.
Becky Sauerbraun this past week was one that really got me. I love her so much. The way I feel about Naomi Girma is the way I feel about Becky Sauerbraun. On not only do I think that she is an amazing player, I think her mind and the way she holds herself and the way she speaks and the way she speaks so eloquently and the way that she speaks about things that matter. Like, I just went on a tirade about giving people Cole. If this was Becky Sauerbraun, she would have made these eloquent arguments of why people need to do better. I think she should be president. I think Naomi Girma should be vice pres with her. I'm going to miss having her leadership in the soccer world.
Yeah. So presents to them.
Presents to them. And I think that you're getting presents this year.
So are you.
Thank you. Even though I was just so,
You're getting presents. I'm giving the presents, so you're getting the presents.
Thank
I know
you.
this.
I can't wait. I do love to receive presents.
You do.
It is one of my love languages. Most languages of love are my love language, but I do love to receive and give gifts. Although I'll be giving out a lot of Cole this year, I'm going to be definitely giving you presents.
Yay. Cannot wait to open them.
All right. So what are you looking forward to this week in women's sports?
On Sunday, December 29th, there are a ton of women's basketball games on. If you're looking for something to do after Christmas, if you celebrate and before New Year's, check out some basketball on Sunday. Ohio State, who's been ranked 11 in the last week, will be taking on unranked Rutgers at 2 p.m. Eastern. Ohio State is currently 12-0, and they're led by junior Cody McMahon, who was amazing as a sophomore last year, continues to play great. And then Rutgers has a freshman, Kiyomi McMillan, averaging 20 points per game. She's been making unbelievable moves. We watched a video of her one move over and over and over again because we literally couldn't comprehend how she made the move. This was against Wagner.
I still don't get it.
Yeah, check it out on Instagram. There's clips of it, and I can't even try to describe what she did. It was some spin move where the ball stayed in front of her, but the spin on the ball was insane.
And she was spinning her body.
Yeah, pretty
so
amazing.
Cool. And a freshman. She's just dominating as a freshman. So I'm really excited for that game.
Besides that, what are you looking forward to?
In the Professional Women's Hockey League on Saturday, December 28th, the Montreal Victoires take on the Minnesota Frost at 2 p.m. Eastern time. As a reminder, if you are in the U.S., you can catch all PWHL games on YouTube.
Yes, that's it for this week. We will see you next week on Women's Sports Weekly. In the meantime, watch Women's Sports, rate and subscribe to the pod on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Share the podcast with your friends. Keep sending us topics you want us to cover on Instagram at Women's Sports Weekly Pod. Thanks for joining us, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Hope you're all getting presents, unless Carolyn has something to do with it.